What is up, enthusiasts? It is Cedar Flags here, and welcome back to another one of my videos. So, as you may or may not know, back in February of 2022, I came out with an overrated roller coasters video, where I counted down the 10 most overrated coasters I have been on at the time. But, at the time my coaster count was only about 160. So, what is it now? Well, it is well over 350. And some of them I found pretty good, some of them I found pretty bad. Some of them were underrated, and some of the roller coasters were overrated, and today we are going to be talking about those. Roller coasters that have a lot of hype, and then lead to disappointment. A lot of us roller coaster enthusiasts have been there, counting down the days to ride a ride just to be disappointed. Now, like I say with all my opinion videos, these are all just that, opinions, and they are all just roller coaster related. Remember, there are no wrong opinions when it comes to coasters. Anyways, let's get right into it. This is Cedar Flags, and today, we are going to be counting down 10 more overrated coasters that I have ridden. Starting off the number 10 spot is Lightning Rod at Dollywood. Now, something funny about this roller coaster is that it was actually originally going to be in my number 3 spot on this list. But in between the time of me figuring out what coasters are going to be on the list and the time the video was uploaded, there was a major news story coming out of Dollywood saying that Lightning Rod would not be running with a launch anymore and a lift hill instead. To say the least, a lot of hype for the ride went down, and so I feel like it would be a little unfair to put this ride at number 3, but despite all that, I did still find this ride pretty overrated. I did get to ride this in 2021, which wasn't the worst time to ride it, but not the best time either. Take that as you will, but it was definitely a very weak RMC compared to some of the others. Coming in at the number 9 spot, we have Skyrocket 2s by Premier Rides. Now, there are a bunch of these all over the world, and I've gotten to ride 2 of them. One with the comfort collars on, and one without comfort collars on. And whether it have comfort collars or not, I'm really not too big of a fan of these rides. Now, that is coming from someone who loves other Premier Rides attractions, like Skyrocket at Kennywood and Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando. I really don't know what it is with these Skyrocket 2s, but I feel like there's some weird thing in the profiling that makes the transitions a little more unpleasant. On top of that, it's not the most forceful ride, and overall, I feel like it's just more awkward than anything else. But I will say, that airtime moment during that drop is absolutely incredible. At the number 8 spot, we have Steel Force at Dorney Park. Now, it is no secret that I love Morgan Hypers. I of course live near Phantom's Revenge, and have a ride like Mamba all the way up in my top 50. So why don't I like Steel Force that much? To say the least, it just didn't run like some of the other roller coasters that Morgan has made. I've gotten to ride Wild Thing, and the other 2 that I mentioned, and I have to say, this was definitely the least out of all of them. While it still provided a very fun experience from start to finish, the airtime was definitely not as forceful as many people said. Now, if you want a crazy airtime experience on a Morgan, go ride Phantom's Revenge or Mamba. At the number 7 spot, we go to a coaster that I was anticipating a lot. This ride really was high up, and when I first got to go to Hershey in 2020, the ride was down. So when I came back and got to ride Stormrunner, let's just say my expectations may have been a little too high. Now, this is mainly my fault, I will say, because my expectations were extremely high. But with that also being said, I definitely prefer a ride like Fahrenheit. To me, it's more forceful, it's more fun, and has more airtime moments. And plus, the hydraulic launch on Stormrunner didn't get me as much as some of the other ones did. With that all being said though, these 3 Intamins together might make one of the best Intamin trios out of any park of all time. For number 6, we go to a Vekoma SLC, and you might wonder, how can a Vekoma SLC be overrated? It is kind of weird that I'm putting it on the list because I actually love Vekoma SLCs. But Great Nor'easter was a little bit of a disappointment, only because people said it was significantly better than all of the other ones. Now, I still very much enjoyed Great Nor'easter, and Great Nor'easter is my favorite SLC out of all of them, but not by much. I would say rides like Thunderhawk at Michigan's Adventure and Riddler Revenge at Six Flags New England honestly come pretty close to it, and all 3 of these rides I would definitely recommend if you are a fan of inverted coasters. When it comes to the setting, you can't deny that it's the best, but when it comes to the actual transitions of the ride, it is a little rougher than you would expect. It is still very smooth, but smooth for an SLC. It does still have those SLC transitions, but at the end of the day, I'm a fan of these rides, and I will always defend SLCs. Going from one boardwalk park to another, we go to Thunderbolt at Luna Park in Coney Island in New York City. This is their prototype model for the Zamperla Thunderbolt model, which has been unveiled around the world since then. But those models have been much improved on. Like I said, this was the prototype. It has different restraints and different shape transitions. So what are the restraints on this ride? Well, I could confidently say that they are probably one of my least favorite. They are hard plastic bars. Because without the hard plastic bars and without some of those transitions, this would be an incredible ride. I mean, looking at it off-ride, this looks like it has one of the greatest layouts out of any coaster I've seen. It has airtime, inversions, and multiple great moments. But I feel like when it came to the actual execution of the ride, it didn't actually end up near my expectations. Basically, take a negative opinion on Skyrush, and that's basically my thoughts on Thunderbolt at Luna Park. For our number 4 spot, we go into the same state of New York to look at Ride of Steel at Darien Lake near Buffalo. This is on the other side of New York, but is a whole other ballgame. This is an intimate hypercoaster, specifically a mega coaster, and this was actually the prototype. So, what is wrong with this ride being so similar to other incredible rides like Millennium and Superman the Ride? Well, personally, I think it was just the overall feel of the ride. It was nowhere near as forceful, the elements didn't pop as much, and the helixes and some of the other sections of the ride did not feel as intense as I thought it would from the off-ride perspective. This especially goes into the finale. Overall, the ride just didn't pop as much. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a bad ride, in fact, I absolutely loved it. If you want something crazy, go southeast to Hershey and ride some Skyrush. We have officially made it into the top 3. And for our number 3 spot, we are going to go to Indiana Beach to look at Steel Hog. Now, funny enough, Indiana Beach is one of my favorite parks ever, but Steel Hog is one of the most overrated coasters I have ever been on. Seeing the layout, seeing the actual ride itself, it looks incredible, but the ride itself really didn't impress me as much as I thought. Maybe my expectations were just way too high. I mean, looking at the ride itself, it definitely looks incredible. I'm gonna say the main reason I put it on the list is because I've been anticipating it for so long, and it just didn't live up to what I thought. Very similar to Stormrunner. Now, making this list, I originally didn't think I would put a brand new roller coaster on the list, but unfortunately, I definitely have to. For the number 2 spot, we go to Worlds of Fun to look at Zambezi Zinger. Now, I wouldn't say that this ride gets the same amount of praise that these other coasters do, but I still think that it gets a certain amount because of how new it is and the gimmick of it. And though I will say I love the gimmick of that spiral lift hill, this ride is definitely for that, the gimmick. The rest of the layout doesn't provide any forces, and for some reason it has a bit of a rattle to it. I honestly think that the main error in this ride is its execution, because the layout is great, the scenery is great, and I think overall this ride looks great, but the overall feel of the ride, it feels like a 20-year-old coaster, tagged along with these interesting restraints that will probably close down on you. But funny enough, my least favorite GCI is next to my favorite GCI, Prowler, and in my opinion, this might be the most underrated wooden coaster I've ever been on, besides maybe Raven. But seeing how incredible GCI did in 2009 and in the 2010s with the retrack of Timberwolf, it really bothers me to see how rough this roller coaster is compared to the other two. Finally, we get to the number 1 spot on the list, and looking at this list, this was obviously going to be the number 1 spot. It is Fury 325 at Carowinds. Now, I got to first ride this in 2017, but I got to re-ride it in late 2022. In both times getting off, I loved it, but it just isn't top-notch for me. I hear a lot of people say that they put this up there with Velocicoaster, Steel Vengeance, and other incredible rides like that. And for me, there's something about the ride that just keeps me from putting it up there. I feel like the layout is just full of missed potential. Going down on that first drop is incredible, but after that, you just have a plethora of low-to-the-ground turns. And in my opinion, this doesn't provide as thrilling of a sensation as some other roller coasters out there that people would put much lower on the list. And though I absolutely love this ride, the reason I put it so high on this list of my overrated coasters is simply because people put it so high on their lists. Anyways, let me know what you thought about this video, let me know in the comments below, and of course, check out the links in the description, like, subscribe, and check me out in the next video. Until next time, this is Cedar Flags, and I'll see you all later.